Thank you for taking time out of your busy day and talking with us this morning. One thing I want to ask you is what's happened last night. I know you evidently worked rather late last night. The Senate defeated President Barack Obama's job creation package, that it's called, by, well, a pretty close margin. I guess it went along party lines pretty well. How did that work out?
Well, a couple of the Democrats voted with all of the Republicans to say, let's not go forward with this bill. And since it would have taken 60 votes in the Senate to go forward, it wasn't even close. I don't think anybody in Washington on either side of the aisle really believes that the president's so-called jobs package is anything but a campaign topic rather than a legislating topic. If the president wanted a jobs package to become law, he'd be in Washington talking to individual members of the House and Senate or small groups of House and Senate members to say, what do we need to put in this package so that you can vote for it and we can move on and get private sector jobs the focus of the country. And that's just not what his package is about. It's like the stimulus plan. I think you got to look really hard to find anybody who thinks the stimulus plan worked. And this is the stimulus plan warmed over, and it's not going anywhere. And the president knows that. And last night was just another example of the president knowing that.
Well, one thing he's been, as he says, taking it to the people, which he's being accused of many people by making just campaigning for 2012.
Well, I think there's no doubt that this is a 2012 campaign strategy, not a 2011 legislative strategy, and it's pretty easy to see through, and I think the American people and certainly Missourians see it for exactly what it is.
Senator, this is Dave. I have a question for you.
Yeah, Dave.
Do you, and I'm not trying to be trite by saying this, because I'm quite concerned, and I know most of the people out there are also. Do you think that this administration has a clue as to what really needs to be done to increase economic activity in this country? I mean, are we just dealing with a bunch of neophytes? Because I'm reminded of what Albert Einstein once said, that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And that's what I see in this administration. Do these people even have a clue in his economic advisor people and the president himself? I know the president doesn't because he's never had a job. But do they have a clue as to what they're doing?
I don't think they understand the economy, and I don't think they understand the private sector economy. I don't think the president specifically understands the risk-reward element of capitalism. And if you don't encourage risk, people don't take risk. And you can't talk every day about more regulation, higher taxes, higher utility bills, unknown health care costs, and expect people to put their money on the table just to see if they can lose it or not. That's not going to happen, and I really don't think that the administration understands the fundamentals of the American economy, and they think that a government-created job is somehow as good for the country as a private sector-created job, and it's not. Government jobs don't pay the bill; they are the bill, and you need a few of them. But Greece and all these European countries has proved what happens if the government gets bigger than the economy can support, and we don't want to let that happen in America. We're down that road, but we're not down that road so far that we can't turn around and head in a better direction.
Well, I don't know if you listened earlier. I talked about wealth creation, and the problem that this country has is that there's basically four ways, and you may have other ways, that we create wealth. We can mine it or drill it. We can farm it or grow it. We can build it or manufacture it. Or we can sell and enforce intellectual properties. I think the problem we have is that we're not creating the wealth that we used to because we've allowed so much of our manufacturing to go offshore. What are we doing about that, and why are American corporations not allowed to bring their money? I mean, I would think that a big shot in the arm for the economy would be to allow American corporations to bring the money that they've accumulated offshore back into the U.S., give them a moratorium on their taxes if they would invest it into, capital improvements or employees, and they got to pay some of it out to shareholders, which is going to increase taxes, and and stuff like that. Well, why can't we put together a package like that to get this money from overseas banks back into the U.S. and into our economy?
Well, I think that's right, and it's easily distorted into thinking, well, these companies shouldn't have taken these jobs overseas. There's a big worldwide market for companies that pension plans are invested in and other things, and while we want every job we can have in the United States, not every job in a world economy can be in the United States, but every profit dollar can come back if we will allow that to happen. You know, we have a different taxing system than almost any other country in the world, where we expect you to pay the taxes in the country you make the money in, and then pay the full taxes when you bring the money back here, which means people don't bring the money back here. Certainly, if you put the restrictions on it you mentioned, where you didn't pay taxes only if you invested in plant and equipment and things that were going to be used in the United States, certainly that's a way to encourage our economy and get profits that American companies have made somewhere else back to where they're invested in America. If you don't do that, if you leave them there, eventually they'll be invested in making that overseas operation bigger instead of whatever it needs to be for the company to meet its overseas marketplace needs. And repatriation, it's called, is one of the things we ought to do. I've been for that in the past, where we say, okay, you still got to pay taxes, but you can bring the money back, but your rate's going to be, I think it was 7% when we did this a few years ago. A lot of money came back. A lot of ways, Dave, I like your idea even better. Rick Santorum is talking about that same idea, and others probably are too, where you bring the money back and there's no tax on it if you invest it in plant and equipment in the United States of America, and that's a fairly easy thing for the Congress to do. There's some low-hanging fruit in job creation, and that's one of them. More export opportunities, which we're going to vote on late tonight, is another one. And this is not about whether products from Colombia or Panama or Korea can come here. This is about whether our products can go there. And more travel, more foreign travelers, because they spend a lot of money and they stay longer. Those are three things you can do immediately that would encourage private sector American jobs. And the other thing you could do is just quit talking about doing all the things that make a job creator hesitant to create a job, and then quit doing those things. That's why I'm for a moratorium on regulations for the next 18 months.
Yeah, Senator, I know you have other commitments, and we appreciate you taking time out of your busy day and talking to us this morning. And one more thing, I guess, this job creations bill that you defeated last night, do you think that'll carry on? You think the president will keep working on that to try to get it passed? Or what do you think will happen to that?
I don't think the president, Dan, has any other plan but to talk about this jobs bill, which won't create private sector jobs. Yeah. But he still calls it a jobs bill and then says, and the Congress won't pass it.
So you think
when
that's
the president can get all the Democrats in the Senate to vote for it, then he can start complaining about the Republicans in the Senate who won't vote for it.
Overall, do you think that's sort of dead in the water, so to speak? The jobs creation.
I absolutely do.
Okay.
Good to talk to both of you.
Hey, it's good to thank you, Senator, very much for thanks for calling. And the next time you're in town, I hope you'll come by in the studio, and we'll be talking to you soon.